if gratitude feels impossible when you're hurting, or if you're curious about why everyone says to practice gratitude beyond just positive thinking, this episode breaks down the neuroscience of how gratitude literally rewires your brain from survival mode to trust mode. Okay, hey, this is Francisca, and this is My Mid-Crisis Life, and today is Monday Mindset. So I've been talking this week about gratitude. And I guess what do I want to say about gratitude? So lots of people talk about gratitude, right? How, it gives us, it can change your mindset, and it's such a powerful emotion to have. It's a really good frequency to resonate at, and everybody's got gratitude journals and say 3 things that you're grateful for and all the rest of it. But I wanted to talk a little bit about why gratitude is actually helpful. So yesterday in Crisis Confessions, I was talking about the fact that gratitude doesn't feel natural when you're hurting, right? That when we feel sorry for ourselves, when things are difficult, when things are hard, that our body goes into kind of like this defensive state. So it's scanning for danger. It's not scanning for blessings, right? It's not looking for ways that we can elevate our emotional state. It's literally in fight or flight. It's trying to keep us safe. It's trying to keep us secure. And it's trying to deal with hazards and threats and danger. So it's not the easiest time to be grateful, but actually it's the time when being grateful is the most beneficial, right? Because gratitude isn't about positive thinking. It's not just about saying, I'm just going to think of things that are positive and that's going to change everything. It's about kind of self-regulation, and it's about reframing our environment, reframing our reality from survival to trust, essentially, right? So when we're in that state of self-pity, it's like this kind of self-soothing loop that forms, right? So when we feel powerless, we'll crave control. When we feel unseen, we'll want recognition. When we feel disappointed, we'll want validation, right? So in short, self-pity is saying, I didn't deserve this. But gratitude, on the other hand, is saying, maybe there's something here that's still worth noticing, right? So for example, the way that I was feeling is I was feeling that I deserve all of these bad things to happen to me because I asked for too much, right? So that's having this core belief of guilt and self-punishment, right? My dad, in the example I gave, was feeling like nobody is here for me when I'm feeling vulnerable. So it's this idea of learned helplessness, this feeling of abandonment, right? Or for example, people might feel like life keeps taking from me, this kind of victim consciousness, or, everybody else has it easier than me. So this idea of comparison, this idea of injustice, and being really sensitive to that. But here's why gratitude is really, really helpful. So firstly, the first thing that it does is that it changes our prefrontal cortex. So this area of our brain that's linked to safety, to connection, to meaning. Yeah. It also inhibits our amygdala. So the hyperactive activation of our amygdala. So this idea of fear or threat or shame, right? And it shifts the nervous system from this sympathetic state, so this fight, flight, freeze, fawn, to a parasympathetic state. So this idea of rest and relaxation where we can receive. Yeah. And what it also does is it builds this idea of neural resilience. So this idea of having the capacity to be able to hold both the good and the bad simultaneously, right? Which really is kind of like a core marker of emotional maturity. So in short, gratitude is kind of teaching your brain to stay open when it wants to close down because we're in fear, right? But the thing is that there's that paradox, right? That we need gratitude most when we're in a period of pain, when we're in a state of fear, when we're high in anxiety, when we're in fight or flight, right? When our mind wants to control and doesn't want perspective. When we're in that state, gratitude feels like a surrender. It feels like having to surrender to all of these awful things that are happening, right? But that's the medicine. That's the whole point. That's why you want to do it, right? Because again, it's not about just this idea of thinking positively. It's about being able to say that I refuse to let suffering define the entirety, the entire truth of this situation, right? So it's like this alchemic way of turning resentment into resourcefulness, which really is the core foundation, the core framework for emotional resilience, right? And emotional maturity and all of that sort of stuff, right? So what I would invite you to do is I would invite you to do these 3 things. So firstly, to notice what your self-pity narrative is. Yeah. What am I telling myself about what I deserve or what I didn't deserve, about what is scary and what's not scary, about what life is or what life isn't, what other people represent, what I represent in the world, what the world represents, right? What is kind of that self-pity narrative? Then within that, finding then kind of that hidden need. So what are you longing for? Are you longing to be seen? Are you longing to feel safe? Are you longing for forgiveness for yourself or for other people? Are you longing to be held in this moment, right? What is it that you actually, at the core of it, need? What's that hidden need? And then reclaiming that power through gratitude. So saying, okay, this is true, but what aside from that is still true? What is still working? What is still supporting me, even now, even in this moment, right? Because gratitude doesn't deny the pain that you're in, but it just allows you, it reminds you, it allows you to see that actually I'm bigger than this pain. I'm bigger than this moment, bigger than this scenario. Okay, so gratitude is really easy when life is good, for sure, right? But for when your ego is really big, when your ego is really struggling, when your mind and that voice inside of you is trying to keep you safe through, I don't know, those kind of self-limiting beliefs, those pattern behaviors, those unconscious bias that you have in those moments, that's the moment when you can say, okay, I might not have all that I wanted, but I still have what I need to be able to grow. Yeah. And I guess also just understanding that that shift doesn't make you weak. You're not surrendering to all of the bad stuff. You're not pretending that everything is okay, but it actually gives you the freedom to see everything with a new perspective and to be able to hold both those truths at the same time. Okay. I think that's it for now. Come back on Thursday for Chrysalis Tools. We're going to do a practice that's going to help to look at these stages, to be able to find, what those narratives might be, like what your hidden need might be, and then employ some of that gratitude so that it's easier to see the whole and shift out of that more, I don't know, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, sympathetic nervous system state, protective state, whatever it is, right? Yeah, but for now, that's it. Gratitude isn't about just pretending everything's okay. It's about refusing to let suffering define the entire truth. Drop a comment about your self-pity narrative, what hidden need you're longing for, or how gratitude has shifted your perspective. Thursday's Chrysalis Tools will help you practice these 3 steps. Notice narrative, find hidden need, reclaim power.